Blog Talk Radio.
Well, here we go, America. Coronavirus might have a grip on the country. Nobody has a grip on Cleveland, Ohio. It's this American Sports History podcast hosted by my good friend Peter Ray, 347-205-9631. As I give him the podium, the mic, the red carpet, first of all, Peter, how are you? Second of all, how can people get a hold of you? Third of all, your great guest is on, Dante Powell.
Hi, Mark. I'm fine. I make history videos, and I have a YouTube channel. It's Peter J. Ray. My last name is R-E-A. And I make history videos in world history, American history, and also baseball, Cleveland baseball, every season from 1869 to 2019, including the 20 Negro League seasons. So, Mr. Powell, Dante Powell, it's an honor to have you on the show tonight. Thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
So, Mr. Powell, you played MLB from 1997 to 2001, and I wanted to talk about the 1997 season. You had speed and power, and you got called up, and the Giants, your first year, won the division and went to the playoffs. You had Dusty Baker, manager, and you had some of the names of the guys that stand out for me on the 97 Dusty, Dick Tidrow, former Cleveland Indian farm director, Jeff Kent, Jose Vizcaino, Barry Bonds, Glenn Allen Hill, Mark Lewis, and some other fellows. Would you like to talk about 1997, that season, and getting called up from the Phoenix Firebirds, where you had been playing well, to the Giants and playing on that team? You want to talk about the 97 season?
Absolutely. And, number one, I'll even talk about the call-up first. This was kind of back, when electronics was, really, coming available to everyone. And we were wearing beepers back then.
Right.
And we were on a road trip to Canada, and we were flying back from Canada to Arizona. And then we had a night game that night. And, getting back to Arizona, I went to my hotel room because I didn't have actually a place at that time because it was early in the season. And I was so exhausted. I had my pager, on the nightstand, and, I wake up and, there's 100, texts on my pager, and I actually, shot over to the stadium, where we were playing for the Phoenix Firebirds. And Phil, which was our clubhouse manager, he's yelling, "Where the hell you been? Where the hell you been? They've been trying to get you. You've been called up." So that's the first time I knew that I was called up.
Right. Okay. And so, go ahead.
And, that 97 team, was incredible. Just being called up, number one, being around Barry Bonds, who I still tell everyone to this day he gets a real bad rap. But, one guy that really, really, really took me under his wing was Glenn Allen Hill. And, much love to him.
Yeah, and you were with the Giants when Bonds hit 73 home runs. Were you on the team at that time in 01?
Absolutely, and that was really, really incredible. At that time, Barry was in the home run race, and why I tell people all the time that he gets this unfair shake, and tell you a story. We were in Houston at the time, when it was 9/11, and the planes went into the towers. My teammate of mine, Jalal Leach, he calls me up, and I pick up the phone. I'm like, "What's going on?" Early in the morning, we basically just got in from the night of having a pretty good time, and he says, "Turn on the TV, we're going to war." And so I turn on the TV, and the second plane is going into the World Trade Center, unfortunately, and we're wide awoke. At that time, Barry was in the home run chase. No one thought he was going to actually, beat the record, especially at that point, in the season. And not only that, during that home run record breaking time, we were in a pennant race, and, just the media, the frenzy, everybody around, was just incredible. And, Barry himself, held a team meeting, a closed door team meeting. And, he said to the whole team, hey, you guys look here, this home run record, is my deal. We are here to win, the National League West, and we're here to win and concentrate on winning the World Series. And if any reporters or anybody, is talking to you guys about the home run record, if they're asking you or interviewing you questions, anything other than baseball specifically related to us winning, he said, send them to me. And, my locker was a couple lockers down from Barry. And, the way that he handled the media, the way that he talked to, interviews, even under the extreme pressure, the death threats that he was really getting, from breaking that home run record, the composure he handled, the whole situation was just absolutely incredible. And, you guys know the story. They flew us back from Houston to San Francisco, to start up again. And, Barry just continued his tear, and, he ended up beating that record, and the rest was history.
And now, the interesting thing is Dusty Baker was your manager, and he played with Hank Aaron on the team. Hank Aaron, Davey Johnson, and Dusty Baker hit 40 home runs. The only time is 3 teammates have hit 40 home runs. I think it was 73. What you have anything to say about playing for Dusty Baker?
Well, 73 I was born, so but I love Dusty Baker. He they called his nickname was Dr. Skull. He hit that ball and it came off his bat pretty hot. And for him, his stories, hitting behind Hank, and him telling us stories, how it was in that time, a lot of the racial barriers that were going on, and in particular, talking about Barry Bonds and him still getting the death threats. But, with Dusty Baker, his stories, and, I was a huge Dodger fan, and it was ironic me playing for San Francisco Giants growing up here in Long Beach, California. But Dusty Baker was a team manager, players manager. He was a guy that you could walk into his office, and have a real conversation with him. The only thing that I could say about Dusty, managers are hired to be fired. That's just the bottom line. And, to insulate himself, safeguard himself, he would like to win with veteran players. And, you look at the lineup on that squad, just like he went down Jose Vizcaíno, I think it was Stan Javier, Glenn Allen Hill, obviously Barry Bonds. We had a really mature class, so me being the young guy, getting that experience was very valuable.
Now, when the Giants got to the World Series in 2002, and I think lost a tough series in 2007, you'd been on the team the year before. Did you have a sense of pride in being on with guys who won the National League title in 2002?
Absolutely. I'm definitely, I was proud of those guys. From any ball player standpoint, you want to be a part of, playing in a World Series, winning a World Series, being on the team. But, it's just a feat in itself, to be a part of Major League history, to be, one of the guys. I think it's like, 25,000, 50,000, I don't know what number it is, ever since, baseball started, guys that are really, a part of and membership of Major League Baseball. And just to that, man, I really am, proud, to be a part of that.
And you played for the 99 Diamondbacks who won the World Series in 2001, so you also can feel like you're a part of that championship as well.
So, Peter, I missed them both. But, the good thing about it, like I said, once again, and, you talk about that Arizona Diamondbacks team and Dusty Baker related to that, just because, Dusty had the idea, like winning with, older guys at the time, we had a really real conversation. And, that was the point of me being traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they were their second year in the league, as an expansion team. And when the trade was made, it was, prior to the Randy Johnson signing. And, Buck Showalter, I was, in the lineup as a starting center, left field, fielder for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But there was a transition, and, that really helped me understand the business side of the game early. Signed Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson came in, had a home in Arizona. He was on the tail end of his career, and, he was a guy that wanted to walk away with a ring. Arizona having the money, the financial capital to bring in guys, that's exactly what they did. So now you have, Luis Gonzalez, you have Steve Finley, you have Tony Womack, Bernard Gilkey. That was really a deep pool of an outfield, when I came to Arizona, after they, did a little bit of building over that off season. So it turned into an expansion team. We're going to take our lumps in the first part. And then it really turned into, hey, we have World Series and championship aspirations.
Now, you had 2002, you had a good year at AAA, 280, 22 home runs, 62 RBIs. And did you have any offers in 2003? How did your career come to an end?
Well, that's, I had actually a couple of really good, minor league seasons, and, at that point, Peter, in 97, 98, 99, there was a transition of baseball, I have a lot of the old school guys, tell me, I'm a throwback player. I was one of those guys that had a lot of energy. I burned the candles, from both ends. I was one of those guys, I didn't need much sleep. I could, be out for the wee hours of the night. And, I knew coming in, playing a game, that was my job, and I was fully committed to that job. I was just one of those guys that can do that. And that's how some of the old school players were. And, it was a major transition from the corporate, from family-owned businesses, from family-owned operated major league teams to now corporate-owned operated teams. And then also the economic side of it, guys making, $2, $3, $5, $6 million a year, that jumping from, 10, 15, $20 million a year, it really put a new shape and a new light on the game. Now baseball players are looked up on as, these teams making an investment. And, at that time, just, probably how I played the game, I was an old school throwback, making an investment on a guy that, possibly could or could not burn out, the next couple of years. I'm sure that was probably some, organization's concerns, but, here or there, I can tell you, without a doubt, blood, sweat, and tears, I did lay it all on the line, and I did lay it all on the field.
Right. Now, Mr. Powell, we have some callers waiting to come on. Like we have Lou's first in line. Lou, are you there? You're on the air. Lou?
I'm here, yes.
Okay, very good.
Good day, Mr. Powell.
Hey, Lou, how you doing?
All right. I won't hold that against you for the 2001 World Series because when that final run was in the bottom of the ninth, I just sat there in disbelief. I'm like, how could he get 2 runs off of Mariano Rivera? I'm like, just my heart just sunk for 30 minutes that whole night.
Right.
But you gotta admit, that was a tough World Series. I mean, you had us in the first game, and then you had us in Game 2, and then Game 3. The sparks were flying because that was, the most emotional World Series I think we've been through since that was the World Series after 9/11. So,
right.
It meant a lot more. It would have meant a lot more to New York if we would have won it because it just happened a month before rather, and but it was a very tough World Series, and both teams deserved it. It was quite.
Do you have a question for Mr. Powell, Lou?
Yeah, I mean, what was Bonds really like though when you did play with him for that amount of time?
Bonds, like I said, Bonds really gets an unfair shake. You talk about a guy with, extreme talent, and he did everything, possible with that talent. And you guys have to remember this, and people do not remember this. People forget about his father, Bobby Bonds, And Bobby Bonds, even though he was a great ball player, Bobby was treated kind of unfairly, through the times of Major League Baseball. And then now you have a son that's running around in the clubhouse and really seeing how Major League Baseball works, hearing the stories from his father, Dusty Baker, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron. And, now you got a guy that has a chip on his shoulder with Major League Baseball with all the, talent in the world. If you ask, especially in our era, who is the best baseball player ever to play the game, you're going to have the majority of voters, the guys that played and witnessed Barry Bonds on the field, they all will say Barry Bonds, without equivocally of a doubt, is the best baseball player ever, and that's included with Ken Griffey Jr.
Wow. Even more so than Babe Ruth or Reggie Jackson or...
Babe Ruth and Reggie Jackson never had 500 stolen bases. Think about that.
Oh, right.
That's true.
Right.
Or Willie Mays. Well, I'm just comparing notes, I guess. You're right, though. Never had that many stolen bases, so he is worthy of it.
Well, I tell you what, and I know this for a fact, Willie Mays, he'll hold up his argument. He'll tell Barry, you still can't throw like me.
I'm sure.
You still can't throw like me.
Oh, boy.
Do you have another question, Lou?
Now, wait, your career only lasted 4 years. Was it an injury that caused the end of it, or you weren't picked up? I didn't get the full question on that.
It was more on the injury side. I broke down, just the body, wise. When I was traded from Arizona to St. Louis Cardinals, I was, Tony La Russa and I had a relationship prior to that. When I was first signed for the San Francisco Giants, Tony invited me out to Oakland for a big his annual autograph signing show. And he told me then, he said, you're going to play for me one day. I had some pretty good, seasons. I was with Arizona Diamondbacks. I had a, pretty decent season, AAA and big leagues over there. And, he decided to pick me up. And, when I went to St. Louis, in spring training, it was a second game, pretty hot, the whole 9 yards, whatever. But I was out there warming up. I was slated to be a starting outfield with Ray Langford, J.D. Drew, and myself.
Oh, good crowd.
It's a real good outfield, right? I was warming up doing my sprints. And, man, I did like my fourth, fifth sprint to take off, and I ended up tearing my quad muscle. And yeah, serious. And then I had to, come back from that. I was out, and then, they healed me up as much as possible, tried to come back on the end of spring training, but I couldn't get that leverage. And, I just wasn't the same player, and Tony La Russa called me in the office and, they had to make business moves. And he said, Dante, I hate to, tell you this, but, we didn't sign you to play in AAA, period. And he said, we're going to have to make a move. We're making some decisions from the brass. It finally came down. I wasn't, fully healthy to go through the season, and they had to release me. And, that was really hard, in itself, but, that was a business side that I definitely understand. But, I still, love Tony La Russa, Buck Showalter for giving me my first, start, out of spring training. And Dusty Baker, all three major league managers were right on.
Yeah.
Well, Lou, thanks for your call. We appreciate it. All the best. Okay, we have next caller is Chuck. Chuck, you're on the air. Would you have a question for Dante Powell?
Yes, Mr. Powell, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks, Chuck.
A question I have, Barry Bonds had an excellent career before he went to the Giants with the Pirates. He had MVP-like seasons. He probably would have been a Hall of Famer. Why do you think he felt the need to turn to steroids?
Well, I'm going to let you on a little secret, Chuck, okay? We always have this debate, and we say the pitcher started it first.
Okay.
So here you go. Think about this. And, there's another name that was, indicated, implemented into the steroid scam. And, it's not a secret now. It was Roger Clemens, how that thing came about. Okay. Roger Clemens, before everything happened, was the best of the best himself. And, you have to understand, this is a really competitive game, and it's a competitive league, and this is exactly what we do. And we talk about a steroid era where the majority of the guys were probably on it. I won't name any names, I won't go there, but the majority of guys are on it, and that was just a part of the game. And in baseball, there's a little secret, and it's said, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Okay. And that's a little code, and wrong or right, that's just how it was, and that goes back from, back in the 1800s, guys throwing spitballs, carving up the ball, with Ty Cobb with the spikes up high, and, guys finding ways to get an advantage and a competitive edge. And, unfortunately, during that time, to be honest, steroids really saved the game of baseball. The home runs came back. It really sparked enthusiasm in the game. And now you have the best of the best, doing what they need to do. It made the game different. It made the game fun. It brought the crowds back out. And, really nothing was really said about it until, the steroids started reaching the children, started reaching the high schools. And now you had kids in high schools that were having heart attacks and, they were having, other health issues because of steroids. And, that's when it became really a major issue, in our sport. So, with that being said, Barry Bonds, he really never got caught, so I can't say, did he or didn't he, he didn't get caught like most other guys did get caught. And, did it need to be cleaned up? Absolutely. Was it a problem in our game? Sure, but, when you have the majority of guys, doing something on the same level, it really makes the playing field a little bit more evenly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can certainly see that. Another question, one player who I always thought was very heralded, especially on the 0-2 team and the Bonds Giant teams. He did play for the Dodgers for a little bit after. He was a Southern California kid, but I've always felt he didn't get his due as an offensive second baseman was Jeff Kent. Do you agree?
You know what? I'm going to tell you what. Everybody talks about Barry Bonds being an asshole. Jeff Kent can be the biggest asshole.
Yeah, I've heard that. But it was an excellent hitter, though.
Hey, you want to talk about an asshole? That there you go, right there. But with that being said, okay, Jeff Kent was one of those guys. Same thing, competitive edge. He was a guy that was hitting fourth in our lineup. Okay, he was hitting behind Barry. So right. Jeff wanted to. His whole nature was to be as good or better than Barry. And that was a hell of a mark for him to set for himself. And by doing that, Barry Bonds made Jeff Kent as great as he was.
So they were competing.
Oh, sure.
Oh, absolutely. And, people think they had rifts. Oh, they might have had their differences, but they respected each other, big time. On our charter flights, sat next to each other, talked about the team. I think at the time, Jeff Kent might have been, one of the presidents or part of our Players Association. And, Barry Bonds was obviously Barry Bonds. And, they did have a really competitive, friendly relationship with each other. And, that was a really dangerous 3-4 punch, really, for about 4 or 5 years.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, thank you very much.
You got it, Chuck. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck. So, Mr. Powell, would you like to talk about your clothing business?
Oh, absolutely, Chuck. Thank you. Just Powell Sports Apparel, what we're doing is, really reaching out to the public here. And, it really is a part of, my heart, my heartbeat. And we have mentoring programs attached to Powell Sports Apparel, and that is the BBYC mentoring program. Anybody that goes on to Powell Sports Apparel website and purchases a T-shirt, and I do have promotions on there, 2 T-shirts for $40. That money goes back into, our programs for our kids. The BBYCB mentoring program really has a lot to offer for our kids, especially be here in Long Beach, California, to where we can touch a lot of kids, getting people back into the baseball scene, getting them enthusiastic, and then also developing the developing process, making that a proper developing process for our kids on the education side and the sports side. So Powell Sports Apparel, very good cause. You can really reach us by going on and subscribing to www.powellsportsapparel.com. On the contact side, if you push the contact button, you'll have my direct line, how to reach me, and my email is lejonDante@gmail.com. So thank you for letting me plug that in.
Oh, sure. Now, in 2003, did you get any interest from anybody to play ball?
I almost made a comeback, and, that was something that I was going to do. And it was interesting you say that. After 2003, I was still in my I was still young, at that time. And, I still kept in shape. And I got a call from coach at Cal State Fullerton. Horton called me up and said that Mike Sosha and Bud Black are out here giving tryouts. And they're working out some guys. And, at that time, there was a lot of things that were going on with me that, I had to square away, outside of baseball. I had to take care of some demons, from baseball, from the ups and downs of it. And, I did go out there. I went out there and I tried out. And, Mike Sosha, they were really impressed. And, I ended up signing a contract with the Angels, a AAA contract, ready to start my career again. I was supposed to report, for spring training, probably a couple of weeks. And then, I got into trouble. I got into trouble with, some of those demons. And, I had to call up Tony Riggins at the time, who was the general manager, and tell him that, hey, the trouble that I got into. And I told him the situation, and even Tony Riggins, at the time, he said, hey, let's possibly square this away, sit there by your phone, after he cussed me out. And he said, hey, sit there, we'll see what kind of solution we have for this. And, they were willing to, work with me, send me to one of their teams in Mexico, and really until a lot of things ironed out, here on this side. But, from a self-preservation point of view, I didn't want to get caught up. I didn't want to embarrass, the Angels organization. I didn't want to embarrass anyone if, my side of the street wasn't clean. And it wasn't clean at that time. And I had to make a really, really, really tough decision. And I had to tell Tony, and I had to turn it down. And I had to say, you know what? I really need to square away. I need to face these demons, face to face, which I did, and that brings us to today. I had to face those demons. The perseverance that, my God from upstairs, has blessed me with, has brought me through. And, he's put together, this Powell Sports Apparel for a purpose. He's brought back some major people and major influences of my life. And, he's, put a story and a testimony together for me to really share, with the kids that are part of our mentoring program. So, on a two-side coin and a two-way streak, things have really worked out.
Yeah, Mark Mancini had Jen Madison on recently, who's involved with this association that helps former pro baseball players, mostly guys who just played in the minors, who are down and out. And when you think about, you guys who, anybody who loves baseball, it's going to come to an end. And then when it does come to an end, and that's got to be very, very tough. And that it's good to get into that and how you deal with the end of the end of baseball and end of a career, and I'm so happy to see you obviously things are going well for you now, so that's the main thing, so that's wonderful, and that's tremendous. I saw a video of Bobby Gritch who was involved in this organization, and Randy Lurch talked about how it helped him. And it's wonderful because, Gritch was a tremendous player back in the 70s. And you mentioned Bobby Bonds. Oh, he was one of my heroes in the 70s. A tremendous player. Played for Cleveland for a little bit. Well, thank you. We're out of time. We could talk a lot more. But thank you, Mr. Powell, so much for coming on. And appreciate your giving us your time. And thanks so much for coming on the show.
Pete, anytime. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, God bless you. We'll turn things over to our fearless leader, Mark Mancini.
Yeah, I'm just a piece of the puzzle. Thanks for tuning into this Cleveland show, blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports. Love Peter and Dante tremendously. At the top of the next hour, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania will have their show, The Power of Pittsburgh. Chris Coote will lead that. Talk to you guys later. You can find the show on blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports. Talk to you next week. Have a blessed night.
All the best, Mark and Mr. Powell.
God bless you. Thank you.
Right. Okay.